On this rainy but calm day, we traveled to Bailey, Colorado to visit my best friend and explore a Sasquatch outpost. Bigfoot is known by many names, but Bigfoot is mainly accounted for the sightings in North America. Also Sasquatch, Winnebago, or Wendigo. Many nations tell of a large creature that looks like a hairy man, has special powers and character. Many agree that Sasquatch is a messenger of warning telling man to change his ways. North American settlers reported sightings in the 18 and 1900s. Before that, there were early people pictographs depicting a tall, hairy ape man watching the hunters tend to a kill. The Western Air Defense Sector of the Washington National Guard has adapted Bigfoot as their mascot, open 24 hours, 7 days a week, watching over 73% of the skies in Canada. I have seen Bigfoot. I do know he exists. Is he a fourth or fifth dimensional creature traveling from here to other regions? Are there families of Bigfoot living here in Bailey, Colorado, up into the Colorado Trail? Also sightings further west, deep into Loveland Pass, where only 4x4 vehicles can trespass? Here my research begins. Sometime soon, I'll also do my own research and go into the forest to see and hear this magnificent creature. What about you? Have you seen or heard Bigfoot? My story will follow this video.
So neat. I love it. The artwork.
Oh, I love the music.
There's a huge group up here in Bailey, and in this Park County area that is all about Sasquatch. Huge group following of people.
He's obviously around here because things happen.
Several. I told her. Nice. Bad dog did that. No. No. Suspected the tremendous turd. No. It's okay. No.
Suspected Sasquatch's cat.
Let's go this way. Go that way? Yes, it says turn left. Oh, it says turn left. Oh, shit, we went the wrong way. Nope. Tissue is what? It gets all the fluffy.
Sasquatch in Native American lore.
And the clip I'm going to show you shows Paul in Walla Walla, Washington, finding some juvenile Bigfoot footprints, which incidentally we have plaster cast copies of in the museum there. So you can go take a look at those after you're done watching the show. But those very tracks that he has cast, we have copies of in the museum. So he cast 4 juvenile, probably about this long, juvenile footprints. And then when he's done casting them, he decided to go a little further, let the plaster dry, and go further into the woods.
Wow, these are Bigfoot children prints. Next to an adult. How cool is that?
He's surprised by what he finds. He follows them a little ways up, filming the tracks that he's doing, and then he sees his famous sasquatch in the woods. So let me show the clip, and then we'll comment on it. This is some of the little tracks. In here, I come back up here big. Can't see.
Those are real tracks. Look at that one.
Look like they're up. About 9 inches long. Pretty good little track. It sure is.
Here they explain how to tell from Bigfoot prints from other animal prints. Bing. An American flag torn and braided by Bigfoot. Up to 13 flags have been found in one state.
Now, I love this clip because Freeman is an older gentleman. I love the fact that as he's showing it, he's breathing heavy into the camera, so all you hear is a heavy breath. But he's not a professional. He's a Forest Service guy. But he's excited about what he's found. And then, lo and behold, as he moves up, there's Sasquatch walking out in front of him. Patterson looks at him and then walks across the trail. That's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed these videos and that maybe you'll walk away thinking maybe Sasquatch really is real. Thank you for being at the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum. I hope to see you back soon.
Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Skunk-Ape, Skuggo. There are many names, but they all refer to the same creature. 8 feet tall, 900 pounds, covered in hair, walking on 2 legs. It allegedly was spotted in every state in the continental U.S., and the eyewitness reports go as far back as the early 1700s. Native Americans have always held the existence of Sasquatch to be an accepted fact, and not just a myth or a case of mistaken identity. In fact, virtually every First Nations tribe has their own name for this creature. They believe to be people and not animals. Names such as Night People, Hairy Savage, and Wild Man of the Woods conjure up terrifying images in our minds and invoke unfinal fear of things that move unseen in the darkness, like shadows in the night. Eyewitness accounts, which now number in the tens of thousands, share some common themes. How Sasquatch seems to move silently and effortlessly through the the trees in spite of their apparent size and width. Now they seem to have their own language.
Sibylla Irwin, forensic Bigfoot artist,
And how most Sasquatch human encounters last only seconds
for these
before they
Bigfoot
disappear
encounters.
into the trees. Could such a creature be living in the forests and mountains of this country? If they do exist, how have they managed to stay hidden and avoided capture for nearly 2 centuries? Is there perhaps more to the legend of Sasquatch than meets the eye? Skeptics point to the lack of forensic evidence such as bones or even a body to support the idea that Bigfoot is a living, breathing reality. Believers respond with literally thousands of first-hand encounters, plaster casts of footprints, recordings of Sasquatch vocalizations, and strange tree structures that seem to have no natural explanation. So welcome to the Sasquatch Outpost and the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum. We hope your time with us will be both fun and informative.
Why Sasquatch Outpost? Whatever got you going with that idea? Which is a great question. We actually started the store about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more now, as a grocery store. The building that houses the Sasquatch Outpost was built in 1878, so it's one of the oldest buildings in Bailey. I've always had a personal interest in Bigfoot. My wife did not share that interest initially, and I told her, I think there's enough people that are fascinated by this topic that we could.
These are Bigfoot braids in horses' manes.
Let's have a little section in the back of the store that's kind of.
I would love for Bigfoot to come braid my horse's manes.
Humored me and decided to go along with it. Well, that just took off, and
sometimes referred to as witches' handles, and can be quite complex.
It's been awesome. There are actually a lot of misconceptions about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and those terms are interchangeable in a way. But probably the most glaring is that people come in and they look around the store and they look around the museum, and the question is, oh, so there's more than one. And I have a hard time answering that question seriously, because anyone who's taken elementary school biology knows that for some species to exist, there has to be a viable breeding population. There can't be one Bigfoot. If there was only one, he would have to be the fastest, most versatile creature on Earth to get all over the United States, because there are sightings in every single state in the continental U.S. and Alaska. And so, no, there's not just one. There's probably conservatively thousands or even hundreds of thousands to keep a viable breeding population in a gene pool.
I need to start tomorrow.
Sharon Sasquatch Encounter, it was in the summer of 2018.
What?
We were in Bailey, Colorado, walking with my friend CJ. We decided to go for a hike and driving down the road to find a spot. We had an inkling there was something going on, some activity in the area, so we pulled over to the side of the road. Neither one of us could move. We sat in the car, we were frozen, and there was something strange that made us just sit there. We could not move. So it was about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we both felt at the same time something lifted. We could move our feet, and I kept hearing in my head, I can see you. So I looked out the window to the right, and I saw this tree, and
to Bigfoot?
Yeah, Daddy, how was you measuring? How small are you?
How do you measure Bigfoot? I would say
Find answers to the questions below. You're supposed to know all these things.
Are we going to get a picture with the
twisted trees.
Sure. If you got a big sasquatch.
Yeah, we might have to do the big ones. Like, we need a full one, not just a head. Oh, well, I guess we should put a head.
No, she's doing this. Oh, Shaka would not like this place. She'd be scared.
She'd be scared, yeah.
The statues.
Oh, Teddy Roosevelt saw sauce around here. Creature that ransacked the campsite.
He made he made a tent. Who's that? He made a tent.
Okay, are you reading your things? Where does Sasquatch sleep at
He doesn't react. He's trained to not react. So. Hello.
What do people call Sasquatch?
I've got stuff for you too. Just wait till I show you. Here's that. He's like, what the hell?
Some of what I consider to be the best of the best footage that's available today. Now, this is in my opinion. It may be not what other people would consider the best footage, but I've got several clips that we're going to show you, and I'll talk about them before and during and after the clip, and I hope you enjoy it. First clip I want to show you is arguably the most famous clip of Bigfoot in the history of Bigfoot research, and it's called the Patterson-Gimlin recording. Now, this was made in 1967 by two rodeo cowboys who were on a mission to find Bigfoot and to film it. Now, these two guys had been out for a month already filming. They were on horseback. They had a pack horse with them. And lo and behold, one day, they came across a female Sasquatch who has forever then been dubbed as Patty after the Patterson-Gimlin film. Now, I'm going to show you a clip of the original footage of this film, and you'll see that it's extremely shaky, and I'll explain a little bit as we show it. So I'm going to go right now to that clip, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit. So as you can see, this is an extremely shaky image. The reason being that Roger Patterson, who was carrying the camera, was on horseback. And when they came across Patty, as we know her now, on the opposite side of Bluff Creek, his horse freaked out, as did Gimlin's horse. And we'll hear from Gimlin in a minute as he tells the story. But Patterson ended up coming off the horse, was running towards the Sasquatch, and actually tripped and fell to his knees or to his elbows. And so there's a lot of shakiness. Thankfully, today we've got a stabilized image, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But you can see that this is an extremely rough, shaky footage of Bigfoot. But until today, I believe is still the best footage that's ever been taken of Sasquatch. Now, I believe this film has stood the test of time. It's 55 years old this year, 1967. As I said, filmed in Bluff Creek, California. This film is arguably one of the most viewed clips of film in history, in the history of filmmaking. And hundreds and hundreds of people have tried to prove and disprove that this film is actually real, a real footage of Bigfoot. Now, what's the main argument? Well, the argument is that someone is in a gorilla suit imitating a Bigfoot, that Patterson and Gimlin set this thing up, put a person out there and filmed it, and then claimed it was a Sasquatch. Now, I believe that's nonsense, and I'm going to show you in a minute why I believe that. But I want you first to hear from Bob Gimlin as he tells the story. Bob is in his late 80s now, and Bob has never changed his story from day one till now. Anytime he's in front of a group of people, he tells the same story. Recently, and I want you to hear from Bob himself.
I'm Bob Gimlin was there. Yes, I was backing Roger Patterson up all the time. Well, he had the camera up, working with it. I was riding back of him. It was a Saturday, sunshiny, bright fall day, October 20th, to be exact. And it was just a warm, sunshiny day, and we were just riding up alongside the creek on the east side of the creek. And about 4 miles from where we were camped, Roger was just riding. Roger was riding in front of me. I was leading a little pack horse. We were basically going out to camp about 40 miles further out than we've been riding. We've been riding, making big circles every day. And so we were going to go on out, so we had a pack horse with us, a small pack horse. And when we were just riding up the creek bed, and Roger was taking pictures of the beautiful colors, of the fall colors of the trees and the brush and all that. And all at once, when we come around the bend in the creek, there one stood across the creek from us. And of course, Roger's horse just went berserk. Well, mine did too, but I was able to stay on him because, I was a pretty good rider back, and I was only 36 years old. So I was a pretty good rider, and I stayed on my horse, and Roger finally, he didn't get actually dumped off his horse, but he got a little help getting off, and he grabbed saddlebag cover, one flap that he had it on there, and unflapped it and got the camera up and started running across the creek, taking the picture. And he stumbled. It had a kind of a bank on the far side, and so Roger had had the camera up to his eye, of course, and he kind of stumbled and fell down on his elbows. And he wasn't really sure if he got sand or whatever in the camera, because this is all happening really, really fast and excited.
Have you guys gone up there looking for Bigfoot?
Yes, trying to find more evidence, but that's why we had decided to travel further way on back, a lot further back, and look for more evidence, because we hadn't found anything in a month. We've been riding for a month and haven't located anything.
So as you can see, Bob doesn't hesitate. He's very confident as he tells the story. He remembers what the weather was like that day. He remembers where they were positioned and everything that happened. And so I wanted you to hear that because Bob, I believe, is a very credible witness. Now, the second person I wanted to show you who has something to say about this film is Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Now, Dr. Meldrum is a full professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University. One of the few academics, actually, who has come forward in his belief in Sasquatch and is willing to stake his reputation and his experience on the fact that they are real. So he has analyzed this footage at length, asked his students to do as they watch it. So let me play this clip and then I'll comment a moment afterwards.
How confident are you this film's real?
At this point, I'm as confident as I can be, short of having stood on the sandbar with Roger and Bob and witnessed it myself.
That's Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State. He's known for being one of the few academics to openly study Sasquatch. For Bigfooters around the world, the Patterson-Gimlin film is not only real, it's one of the strongest pieces of evidence of the existence of an undiscovered giant walking ape on the planet. Still, 50 years later, the film is yet to be officially debunked. So, how is this not a person wearing an ape suit?
It's all so easy to say, oh, that's obviously a man in a fursuit, until you see it up against a man in a fursuit.
He points to the Planet of the Apes franchise that came out around the same time as the film and won an Oscar for the makeup. He specifically calls up a scene in the sauna in the 1970 sequel, Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
They look like big, hairy Pillsbury Doughboys.
Jeff Meldrum compares it to the Patterson-Gimlin film, which he shows to his anatomy students. I'm also including some stabilized footage from a Reddit user that helps illustrate Jeff's point.
Say, all right, I want you to point out as many landmarks of surface anatomy and muscle masses that you can identify. And they start at the head, and they can see the trapezius, they can see the deltoid, they can see the lateral and long heads of the triceps. You can see the erector spinae down the back. You can see the shoulder blades moving under the skin. I mean, just go on from top to bottom. You can pick out all these features, none of which ever show up in a cheap off-the-shelf costume.
As you can see, Dr. Meldrum has an extensive experience in anatomy, and he has asked his students at the university to watch this film and to see what they're able to observe in the musculature and the skeletal musculature of Patty. So they did, as you can see, and I wanted to show you a clip, just a still shot of Patty here for a moment, and point out a couple of things to you myself. Now, as you can see in this image, there's a number of things you can observe. First of all, she's a female, and she has very large breasts. The question has always been asked, if you're going to make a costume of Sasquatch, why make it a female? So much more difficult to make realistic looking breasts. She did have breasts. The second thing I would point out, and some of these insights I've gained from Dr. Al Gwynn, who's a plastic surgeon who works in Kansas City and has studied this film at length. he would say that she's a middle-aged female. She's had more than one young due to where the fat deposits are laid down on her body. But you can see a number of things on this image, such as the tendon in her right knee as she bends her leg. We all have a tendon and we have a hollow behind our leg. You can see that. You can see the musculature in her arms and in her back as she's walking. Frankly, to be honest, there's no way in 1967 that we could have created a suit to look like this. As Dr. Meldrum showed also clearly, that someone in a monkey suit versus what you're seeing in this film are completely different. I don't believe in 1967 that anyone had the technology to build a suit that would do what this image does. Who claimed to be in this supposed suit are 5 feet 10, 5 feet 11. Patty is estimated to be over 7 feet tall. That would mean that a 5'10" man would have to wear arm extensions and leg extensions to reach the same height. Plus, she weighed an estimated 800 to 900 pounds based on the depth of her footprints in the sand compared to a human walking next to those footprints. Again, impossible to replicate, impossible to fake. So, again, this is the best image to date of Sasquatch, filmed in 1967. Hopefully that gives you a different view of this clip. Now, the second clip I want to show you is one that I found a number of years ago, and it's two hunters in Idaho who filmed something. Now, let me say that the film was created by Tim Wells. Tim Wells is a nationally known, maybe even world-known bow hunter whose videos are just hunting videos. He's not into Sasquatch. He's not into making movies about Sasquatch. He's a bow hunter who does hunting videos. But they encountered something on this one trip into Idaho. And so I'm going to play this clip and then talk about a little bit why I believe this is a genuine image of Sasquatch, or a footage of Sasquatch caught by accident by Tim Wells and his companion.
Yes, was I think 4.6.
So we're 4.6 from the truck, and that's the closest road. I'm coming down here, I'm beat, get my gear off, get ready to eat. All of a sudden Eric's like, oh my gosh, big bear, big bear. I grab my bow, I raise up, I look down the hill, and it is the freaking tallest bear walking on two legs I've ever seen in my life. But the moment I realize, I'm like, I turn to get Eric to turn on the camera. He's already filming at that point.
Yeah, I didn't get pushed on play until...
But when did you realize it wasn't a bear?
Well, when I realized it wasn't a bear, when we were sitting here and with the foliage and everything, the undergrowth here, it looked like a bear because all I seen was the brown coming through. But then as I got the camera and stood up and you grabbed your bow, when it stopped right there at that pine, right next to us, it stared at us for seemed like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was staring for a long time. At that point, I knew it wasn't a bear.
Give me the camera.
Oh.
Give me the camera. Give me the camera.
So, as you can see, it's kind of funny. Tim, as they're talking about this incident, his friend was already filming when Tim turned to him to ask him to film, and Tim turns and grabs the camera away from his buddy, which makes the whole thing shaky, and you actually lose sight of the Sasquatch as it runs away. But those first few seconds are critical when it shows Tim's back and the camera looking over Tim at the Sasquatch, watching both of them. And then as Tim turns to grab the camera, the Sasquatch turns and runs away. So let me show you a couple of still shots here. As you can see, Tim is standing slightly below the Sasquatch. There's a bit of an angle to the land here. It goes up a little ways. If we assume as you can see in this image, if we assume that the bottom of the bushes and the line that you're looking at continues across to where the Sasquatch is, then the height of that Sasquatch standing against that tree would have to be somewhere in the realm of 8 feet. Much taller than Tim in any case. And again, if it's someone in a suit, they're out in the woods, they have to be high enough to mimic a Sasquatch. And I believe Tim's behavior and his friend's behavior don't indicate that. It shows two guys who are not expecting to see a Sasquatch and grab the camera and go running after it. And of course the Sasquatch is much faster than they are, and it takes off. Again, Tim was not out to film a Sasquatch. This just happened during the hunting trip while they were on a break, and apparently a Sasquatch came to watch them while they were sitting there. Never made a move towards them, never showed any aggression. In fact, it ran away from them as soon as it realized that they saw it. And so I believe it's a genuine film due to the size of the Sasquatch and due to the behavior of these two men who obviously were caught by surprise as they saw what they saw in Idaho hunting elk. The third video was filmed by a man named Paul Freeman in 1994. Now, Paul was a U.S. Forest Service agent for many years, obviously knows the woods, has been in the woods for his entire career. And the clip I'm going to show you shows Paul in Walla Walla, Washington, finding some juvenile Bigfoot footprints, which incidentally we have plaster cast copies of in the museum here. So you can go take a look at those after you're done watching this film. But those very tracks that he has cast, we have copies of in the museum. So he cast 4 juvenile, probably about this long, juvenile footprints. And then when he's done casting them, he decided to go a little further, let the plaster dry, and go further into the woods. As he does so, you're going to see that he comes across a road that has tracks both coming down the road and going up the road. Barefoot, large tracks. He's surprised by what he finds. He follows them a little ways up, filming the tracks as he's going, and then he sees his famous Sasquatch in the woods. So let me show the clip, and then we'll comment on it after.
This is some of the little ones' tracks that's in here. I come back up here today to cast these. They look like they're about 9 inches long. They're pretty good little tracks. It's sure little one. Went right up this old trail. Around up there to his mommy, I guess. I'm gonna mix up some plaster here and pour it in. Now I got my cast made. And there's 4 little tracks there. 32 inches between the stride there. Yeah, I'm gonna look around a little bit more, let these dry. This way. Yeah, he's come down. Oh shit, he's come down and went back up over. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, he's going back up the road, come down the road. Yeah, look there. Sure have. through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes. Get up here where I can see you real quick. Get up here.
Now, I love this clip because Freeman is an older gentleman. I love the fact that as he's filming it, he's breathing heavy, his heavy breath. But he's not a professional. He's a Forest Service guy, but he's excited about what he's found. And then, lo and behold, as he moves up, there's a Sasquatch walking out in front of him, turns and looks at him, and then walks across the trail. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and that maybe you'll walk away thinking, maybe Sasquatch really is real. Thank you for being at the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum. I hope to see you back soon.
Did you know the guy?
Sasquatch,
I didn't know them.
Bigfoot,
You didn't know them?
Skunky,
Paul Freeman, no.
Skookum. There are many names, but they all refer to the same creature. 8 feet tall, 900 pounds,
Amy didn't
covered in
get a
hair
seat,
and walking
so-
on 2 legs.
Yeah, that's okay. Maybe
They've
she'll stay back
allegedly
there
been
again.
spotted in every state in the continental U.S., and the eyewitness reports go as far back as the early 1700s. Native Americans have always held the
Did you
existence
know
of
that there were all these
Sasquatch to
sightings
be a
out in Bailey
accepted
before
fact,
you heard of this
not just a
museum?
myth or a case of
Did I
mistaken
work-
Did you know
identity.
there were all these sightings out here in Bailey
Virtually
before
every
you
First
Yeah,
Nations
you did.
tribe has their
Yeah,
own
because
name
I
for
was
these
on
creatures,
the
who they believe to be
report
people and
list
not
for a
animals.
while. and
Names such as
every
Night
now and then I
People,
drop off.
Hairy Savage,
Then I have
and
to
Wild
ask to
Man
be
of the
put
Woods
back on.
But when you
conjure
worked
up
for the
terrifying
Forest
images
Service,
in our
did you know
minds
that?
and evoke our primal
Really?
fear of things that
Never heard
move
of it.
unseen in the darkness, like shadows in the night.
Alright,
Eyewitness
Amy,
accounts, which
Yeah.
now number in the tens of thousands, share some common themes. How Sasquatch seems to move silently and effortlessly through the trees in spite of their apparent size and weight. How they seem to have their own language, which includes chatter, barks, screams, and other vocalizations. And how most Sasquatch human encounters last only seconds before they simply disappear into the trees. Could such a creature be living in the forests and mountains of this country? If they do exist, how have they managed to stay hidden and avoided capture for nearly 2 centuries? Is there perhaps more to the legend of Sasquatch than meets the eye? Skeptics point to the lack of forensic evidence such as bones or even a body to support the idea that Bigfoot is a living, breathing reality. Believers respond with literally thousands of first-hand encounters, plaster casts of footprints, recordings of Sasquatch vocalizations, and strange tree structures that seem to have no natural explanation. So welcome to the Sasquatch Outpost and the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum. We hope your time with us will be both fun and informative. And keep your eyes open for Sasquatch.
My name is Jim Myers. My wife Daphne and I co-own the Sasquatch Outpost. A lot of people come in and ask us, why Sasquatch Outpost? Whatever got you going with that idea? Which is a great question. We actually started the store about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more now, as a grocery store. The building that houses the Sasquatch Outpost was built in 1878, so it's one of the oldest buildings in Bailey. I've always had a personal interest in Bigfoot. My wife did not share that interest initially, and I told her, you know, I think there's enough people that are fascinated by this topic that we could try something. And she said, what? And I said, let's have our groceries, but let's have a little section in the back of the store that's kind of devoted to Sasquatch. She kind of humored me and decided to go along with it. Well, that just took off, and one thing led to another, and we got rid of the groceries about 3 years ago, and we've never looked back. It's been awesome. There are actually a lot of misconceptions about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and those terms are interchangeable, by the way. probably the most glaring is that people come in and they look around the store and they look around the museum, and their question is, oh, so there's more than one. And I have a hard time answering that question seriously, because anyone who's taken elementary school biology knows that for some species to exist, there has to be a viable breeding population. There can't be one Bigfoot. If there was only one, he would have to be the fastest, most versatile creature on Earth to get all over the United States, because there are sightings in every single state in the continental U.S. and Alaska. And so, no, there's not just one. There's probably conservatively thousands or even hundreds of thousands to keep a viable breeding population and a gene pool.
In Colorado, walking with my friend CJ, we decided to go for a hike. We're driving down the road to find a spot. We had an inkling there was something going on, some activity in the area, so we pulled over to the side of the road. Neither one of us could move. We sat in the car, we were frozen, and there was something strange that made us just sit there. We could not move. So it was about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we both felt at the same time something lifted. We could move our feet, and I kept hearing in my head, I can see you. So I looked out the window to the right, and I saw this tree, and I just could not take my eyes off of it, and I kept telling CJ, there's something over there, but I don't know what. We get out of the Jeep, and all of a sudden I look, and it's wide open like this area. You could see a figure standing between two trees, maybe 50 yards away, 75. And it was crouching and moving back and forth. Well, we're both so excited we see it, we turn and move towards the figure. And as we're walking towards it, we step over a log, look down and step over it, and we took our heads back up to see, and it was gone. It was just gone. And then the whole feeling of the area just changed. The whole energy shifted. And that was my encounter. But it was a very clear sighting in an area much like this. You cannot mistake a large figure moving between two trees staring back at us in this kind of environment.
Another misconception is that Sasquatch is compared to Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. Great, big, lovable monster who a family could adopt.
He knows what to do. They're going to come get you. And sure enough, they did. They showed up about 11:30 at night. And then, so they helped me get turned around, and we're following them out. And I hear in the back seat, did you feel like something was watching us back there? And I said, yeah. She goes, yeah, I could feel it the whole time. I said, yeah, I know what it is. And she goes, this is Karen. She goes, I know what it is too. And I said, what is it? She goes, it was a Sasquatch. I said, how do you know? She goes, when we got out to go to the bathroom, I saw it. We get down the mountains, and the sheriff stopped because I guess to get to their other car. And so we get out and talk to them to thank them for coming to get us. And Karen, who doesn't have, a filter, she goes to the sheriff. We saw a Sasquatch up there. And I'm going, oh great, now we're 3 lost girls, and in the new Jeep, and he's going to think, yeah, they're really crazy, right? So he looks down at the ground, he looks back at her, and he's shaking his head. I go, oh, this is it. And he goes, as a matter of fact, my brother, my mother, and I were out hunting in that same area, and my brother said a Sasquatch crossed the road right in front of him, and he said, my brother's 6'4", and he's a big guy. He goes, he ran back to the truck so fast. He goes, I've never seen my brother move that fast. And he kept yelling at him, get in the car right now. So they all got in the truck. And his brother to this day will not go hunting in that area.
People often ask us, so what is Sasquatch? Is it a gorilla? Is it North America's great ape? Again, it's a great question. I think it's a legitimate question, but I think if you spend any time studying the great apes, primates, and any time studying a Sasquatch, you would quickly realize there are some enormous differences. one of the similarities is they're all covered with hair. Okay, that's about as far as the similarities go. People did not believe in gorillas until in the early 1900s when people brought back skeletal remains from Africa. Until that point, people thought, no, this is a myth. There could be no 6-foot huge mountain ape that we don't know about. And I think one of the main differences that probably is worth mentioning is the level of intelligence. And gorillas have a primate level of intelligence. It's significant. I know the famous example of Coco, the gorilla, who has like 300 words in her sign language memory, and she can sign 300 words, which is significant, trust me. But I believe that the level of intelligence of a Sasquatch far surpasses whatever Coco could do. I believe they have a legitimate language, which has been recorded and has been analyzed by linguists. I believe very human emotions, the way they carry their young, the fact that they walk on 2 legs all the time, except for when they're very young, they may go on all 4s. But the most compelling proof for me was a DNA study that was done in 2013. It was a $500,000 study, and there were samples from all over the United States gathered by various scientists of what was thought to be Sasquatch hair, saliva, blood, and some tissue. And these samples were sent to several university laboratories. They were not told what they were analyzing. They were simply asked to do a DNA analysis. In every case, the results came back the same, that our DNA has a male and a female side. The female side is found in the mitochondrial cells, and the female DNA was human in every case. The male DNA, which is found in the nucleus, in every case was unknown, meaning it does not appear in the genetic database. That means it's not gorilla, it's not chimpanzee, it's not bear, it's nothing that has a DNA sequence already in the database, and there are millions of sequences in the database. It's unknown. So part human, part unknown, but certainly not ape. And I think that proof alone should be sufficient to say, okay, this is perhaps an uncategorized species, but we can say for certain this is not an ape. It is closer to us than it would be to a gorilla. People ask us, when you go out into the woods, when you take people out on your outings, daytime or nighttime, what do you look for? More often than not, my goal is to take them out to show them things that we believe Sasquatch has done or is responsible for. One of which would be tracks. Snow, after snow is the best time, and we get a good amount of snow up here. So we have found quite a few tracks in the snow that you've already seen as you've been visiting the museum. But another thing that we believe Sasquatch is responsible for are tree structures, so things that just look out of the ordinary, things that don't look like they belong, such as trees leaned against another tree. And these can be small, 5-6 foot saplings to full-grown trees that are carried from one location and brought and leaned against another tree. And you can tell they've been carried there because there's no roots at the bottom. The tree is sitting on the ground. These are 50, 60, 80-foot trees sometimes. And there will be several of them leaned up against another tree. Superhuman strength. Trees that are broken and left hanging. And it's a classic sign that the tree is not broken off. It's twisted and broken and left hanging like this. And these can be trees that are broken 10 feet up, 12 feet up, and left hanging. Again, I do not know of a natural explanation for this phenomenon. There is the occurrence of snow load that can break trees, but it does not do the same thing every single time, which is what we're finding of broken trees. And then trees that are bent over into an archway and then either stuck under something or stuck in the ground so that the arch shape stays. And again, I've seen these anywhere from
This one was cited in
a few feet and around to aspen trees 8 inches in diameter that are bent all the way across the trail, or bent around another tree and then stuck into the ground. Now these are, it would be impossible for humans to do it. It's comic book Superman kind of strength to be able to do this. And again, I've taken numerous scientists with me to the woods and showed them these things and say, explain this to me. And they'll look at it and they'll say, I can't explain it. I don't know how this happened. They don't think it's Sasquatch necessarily, but my response is, that's fine, it may not be, but you give me another answer that explains how this tree was bent and is stuck into the ground. We find others would not have created the structure that we find. And so we find these everywhere, and my experience is when I take people out in the woods, if I do not point these things out to them, they'll walk right by it without ever noticing it, and they'll walk right under the archways without ever asking themselves, oh, I wonder how that got to be that way. And so it's no wonder that we don't find Sasquatch, because we have very little interest or curiosity when we're out hiking. Most of us are looking at the ground as we're hiking. So look around when you go out. I think you'll find some things that don't look normal or natural, and it could very well be something that we think Sasquatch.